Welcome back, folks, to the Mailright Show. This is episode 204. Yes, 204. And we're going to have an internal discussion here with my great co-host, Robert Newman. And we're going to be discussing, we're going to really, it's been over a year where Robert's been my co-host, and we're just going to go over some of our most favourite shows during the past year and emphasise some of the key points that you, a real estate agent, should really know about, and that will really help you build your business up in the coming year. So, Robert, would you like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Yeah, I would love to. So, first of all, thank you, John. I just want to let everybody know that this is his show. He established it and founded it. He found me. He does all the outreach for all of our guests. He is definitely the power and the force behind the show, and I just want to express my gratitude in a public way to him for a moment.
Oh, thanks for that, Robert. But I think, that was our agreement. I do, because it's called the Mailright Show, so it's marketed for Mailright. But I've been really happy with the quality of shows that we've been producing, and I think from the feedback I've got from our listeners and viewers that they really enjoy the discussions that we have. So I think we make a good team, Robert.
So do I. I definitely do. We both have some different thoughts on different things, and I think today's show is going to really highlight that, because what we're going to do is we're going to go back through and we're going to each pick some of our favorite shows from the last, we've got a catalog of almost 60 shows for about what will end up being about 14 months of having done this show together. So everybody, though, I occasionally ask this. I'm going to ask this today. If you have the time, please log on to the Mailright website or my website. You can find the shows in either place or our Facebook pages, and leave us some comments. Let us know what you think. I'm getting more and more feedback from people I'm on calls with that they've heard the show, and I'm really excited by that. But we're still not seeing a lot of commentary on the shows themselves, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So with that, John, because I'm still posting the live feed to my Facebook page, why don't you kick off your favorite show first, or one of your past favorites? I've got my first one picked out.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
You want me to start?
Well, I always destroyed his name. He was from the East Coast. He was an agent. He was not agent, a broker. And I always destroyed his name. But we have to have him back on the show, because I really enjoyed. We had a couple interviews with him. We asked him to come back because it's a very insightful individual, wasn't he? That had a clear understanding of how to run his brokerages and how to generate leads for his agents, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think he had grown. So for those listeners who weren't tuned in with us, and I'm looking back through our old episodes so we could get you the episode number and talk to you a little bit about this guy. But Gaurav he is a Keller Williams, there's a word for it that they use. It's like a marketing manager or something like that. But anyway, he owns the Philadelphia Main Center Market Center is what they call it for Keller Williams. He has 600 agents, and they focus on all the real estate inside the city of Philadelphia. He was incredibly knowledgeable. He had come on the show with us twice. He was humble and seemed really interested in giving back to your average agent, like giving tips and tricks. And we totally agreed with him. Both Jonathan and I did. We talked deeply about establishing a local marketplace and doing hyper-local marketing. And he was 100% on board with that. He talked about specialization and some of the things that you should do and some of the things that he's done inside his own marketplace. I couldn't agree with you more. He was one of my favorites as well.
And BT. I like BT. He's been on the show about 3 or 4 times, hasn't he?
He's an easy one. So here's our show with Gaurav. Gambhir is his last name. So it was 176. So, geez, John, that was almost 30 shows ago. That's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
gone quick, isn't it?
Yeah. So the show was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And we did 2 shows back to back with Garev. We did like 174 and then 176. So if you want to look for that show, you can go onto the MailRight website and it's listed there under number 176. I strongly recommend that anybody that has the time, that's enjoying learning from us, that that you do that. Garev's team is called the Condo Shop, and they're pretty famous inside the real estate industry. Now, BD Carmichael, for those that may or may not remember, who just did a show with John a couple weeks ago, which would be the 3rd show, I think. Right, John?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been on 3 or 4 times.
So BD is really a wildly qualified direct mail, email response expert. His ideas have been fantastic, which is why we've had him on the show 3 separate times. He claims, and we believe him, that with just 200 names on a mailing list, that he can guaranteed get you a listing or 2 listings, like a couple of sales out of this email list that you've got. And from what we've seen and the ideas that he's discussed with us, which, by the way, you can go back and find 3 separate shows. And some of these shows, he drops incredibly specific ideas, unlike many of our guests who, when we put them on the spot, they aren't able to necessarily come up with something super usable right on the fly. I feel like BD.
Well, you do interrogate them a little bit, don't you?
Hey, I'm nice-ish. BD.
Sometimes I think you're going to bring out the Clippers of the Searchlight.
BD.
To say it's a little bit intense, it's an understatement, but there we go.
That's very true. That's a comment that I get in both my personal life and my real life. I'm a very intense person. But BD Carmichael was amazing because he's intense too, in my opinion. He's low-key intense, but he's intense.
Yeah.
And
I fundamentally, I think he says 200 to 300. You know, fundamentally, it's another form of the Buffini mythology. I call it the Buffini mythology.
Right.
And there's a few, and it works. You know, I think personally, I don't think he disagrees with this. If you can combine, which a lot of agents can't for some reason. I think it's a mindset. I've noticed that a few agents. It also might be that they're totally happy with the amount of leads that are coming through because they've established with the Buffini method. What I'm trying to get in a long-winded way, I find a lot of agents that are embedded in the Buffini mythology can't really cope that well with actually combining it with online lead generation.
Okay.
Which is unfortunate because I think if you can combine the 2 together, you really have then a tremendously strong lead generated system, haven't you?
You do indeed. You do indeed.
But I just notice based on my personal experience, that if you get agents that have really been using the Buffini mythology for a long time, they find it hard to cope with the world of online marketing for understandable reasons.
I agree. I agree. Well, there's been a number of marketing systems I've been exposed to over the years. One of the ones that comes strongly to my mind, which will make a lot of people that listen to our show laugh, is Cutco. And once you get into a deep, successful string of referrals where you've got one person giving you 3 or 4 names and you've really gotten your objection responses down, you can keep a list of referrals going for a very long time. It's just another kind of marketing. And it is very similar to a type of cold calling, or it's just a little warmer. You're getting introduced to the call a little stronger. and you're having a long conversation, introducing yourself to a lot of people. And honestly, once you've been doing that for 6 months, you probably have a very long list of people that you can just circle right back around to and work an entire CRM-based system off nothing but word of mouth referrals. It's completely doable. It just is, you're right, it's very different. And if you get completely immersed in doing that, you will miss the boat on digital, which is another kind of marketing that I personally like more, because it's more attraction marketing.
Yeah, but in a way, I think they got to understand it's really the same concept, really, because fundamentally what you're saying through lead magnets and other, you're giving away information that your target audience might find useful, and then you should be just keeping in contact with those people, because they're probably at that moment, they're probably not a buyer and seller. Some might be. Right. Hopefully they are, but a lot of them won't. But that doesn't mean that are good, depending on your marketing, that quite a few of those at some stage won't become buyers or sellers. You just got to have a system, and you've just warmed them up. It's just a bit like having somebody refer you to somebody. It's not of the same quality. Obviously, a fantastic referral and recommendation will never be out. Nothing can beat that, can it? But either way, but a lot of people struggle with understanding that, don't they, Robert?
They do indeed. And this is a good time. I have something to say when we get back, but it's time for us to go to break.
Is it? I thought all right, we're going to go for our break, folks, and we come back, and Robert will have some words of wisdom. We'll be back in a few moments. We're coming back. I guarantee never to have any words of wisdom, my beloved listeners and viewers.
That's too bad, because my topic when we got back was to ask you a question. That's what I wanted to do.
Good, but that's my Englishness coming through, listeners and viewers.
But you said that you liked Garev, but you didn't really mention why. You said, "Hey, I like this Garev guy," and then I kind of took over the conversation, which isn't my bad. What do you like about Garev? What was the reasons that you mentioned him?
Well, he went into a few specifics, but you could tell that he'd been through the wars. He had the arrows in the back. He'd been in the trenches a bit, and he understood. I think there was two things he really understood. He understood the importance of systems. Mm-hmm. Spending the time on documentation and working out systems is. A lot of agents won't do it for understandable reasons. It's tedious. It seems a waste of time. It's not directly generating leads, but in the medium to long term, it will be having inbuilt systems, and having those systems documented will just repay and repay and repay. And secondly, he really understood the importance of online marketing, because I think in the shows he gave some figures that they don't come straight to my mind, but he was spending quite substantial amounts of money on Facebook and Google AdWords, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, I think he was in the hundreds of thousands.
He was putting his mouth and he was getting results, wasn't he?
Yeah. So no, I agree with you. He definitely. Running a team as large as the one that he has, and it definitely gave him an interesting perspective. And what I liked about him was it was all very understated, very matter-of-factly, which is kind of the way that I look at marketing. I mean, you can have a marketing budget of $200 or $2 million, and I've worked with all those monies. And you know what? You're still looking for the same thing with either budget. You're looking for a good statistical ROI, no matter what it is you're doing. If you have a very large budget, then chances are strong you're responsible for providing revenue-making opportunities for a very large group of people. And that's all the budget accomplishes for you. Are you getting those people in front of opportunities? And that was kind of the way that I felt like Garev talked about it, which let me know that he really had a good understanding. It's not important what the number is. It could be 2 million, 10 million, 20 million, 100 million. It doesn't matter. What matters is we're giving the opportunities that you felt were required to the people that you're responsible for. And that's what he talked about a lot, is responsibility for his team. A lot of people talk about the responsibility of the team to them. That's what they infer. And that's, to me, upside down leadership. That's not the impression that I got from Garev. It was more like, I'm honored to be, working with my team. I'm responsible for my team. And these are the things I try to do for my team, which to me spoke of good leadership.
And the last thing is, I think he had a total grasp, which would be my strongest weakness if I was in his place, is that he had a total understanding of the figures, the mathematics behind his brokerage.
Okay.
I could sense he had total understanding in a financial way where he was with his business, which I'm not terrible at it, but it's one of my biggest weaknesses.
I got you.
And it's a weakness in a lot of people, but but I think as long as you're aware of your weaknesses, there's hope for you. It's when you have no understanding of your weaknesses that's when you're totally lost, aren't you?
I think it's important to understand the things that you need to be working on. And I think all of us, just like our strengths, should have a list of weaknesses, things that we're always going to be focused on working on, because we understand that they may not be our strongest points. So I do want to mention two other names, if you don't mind. I want to throw out two additional shows and two additional names. So I think I was a little more impressed with this. Well, let me rephrase. All of our guests are amazing, and we appreciate all of them from being on the show.
Well, sometimes you show a little bit of boredom occasionally, but it depends on your mood, doesn't it?
Sorry.
Right.
My gut, my instinct is to say that they're all amazing, really.
Right.
Maybe I don't show that all the time because I'm me, and that's just the way I am. That's a weakness of mine. There you go. That's something I can work on, is not letting whatever I'm thinking show right all over my face. Show number 191 with Lars Hedenberg. It was a show about...
Funny enough, I was going to choose him, actually.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Right.
So this was another show about systems, and talk about a guy that I felt had the numbers down, because that's one thing that really shone through, is that this guy was all about breaking his numbers down to the ridiculous. It's an old Brian Tracy concept where you keep breaking down your sales and your business mechanisms to the smallest individual point. And this guy was like, he was talking about how much he was trying to pay himself per hour, how many deals that had to be, what he was doing mechanically in order to get there. He had a real strong grasp of his business's evolution. Like even in the show notes here, we're talking about 71 sales, working 80 hours a week, talking about $100 million in real estate, selling $100 million in real estate. And he talked a lot about something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is quality of life. It's if you're just a person that likes to work all the time, that's great. I'm not that guy. I used to be that guy. I've been that guy many times in my career, and I don't want to do it anymore. I want to work maybe 30 or 40 hours. So the question is, how much can I pay myself in those 30 or 40 hours that I want to work? And he talked about the same thing. And the way that you get higher levels of income with lower levels of work is to input systems in place, repeatable systems that you can teach and train other people to use, so that you can step out of the process yourself and basically free up your time. Why were you going to mention Lars?
Well, for all the reasons that you've just mentioned, the only thing is, and it's not criticism of him, is that personally, I think, I just said it's a weakness, so it's probably connected to that. I just thought he took it a little bit too far, but but he could say it works for him. He's got tremendous results. Obviously, it's a bit like it's like most things. You can get enormous results doing something, and then as you move up the scale, you have to put in more and more effort, and you tend to get less a return back through that effort. So there's a sweet spot, but he's very focused on it. So his natural tendency is to really push that to the limit. I would suggest that if he toned it down a little bit, because that last 10% of effort, he's probably not getting as much result from it than he thinks. But does that make any sense at all, Robert?
I understand the principle. I don't know if in this one case that
No, I don't know. But everything you said about him, I agree. He had a good fundamental understanding of where his business was, where he wanted to take it, and the figures supported his, where the business was and where he was. And he had, because he had a tremendous understanding of the figures, he had a tremendous understanding of what had to be done to put the business where he wanted it.
Right. And just to repeat, guys, for those that are listening and taking notes, show 191 is Lars Hedenborg. And also, guys, as we come down close to the end of the half hour, I want to let everybody know that that Jonathan has created his own CRM system. And if you're looking for something to manage leads and things of that nature, and you're trying to find a creative tool, or you've looked at most of the tools that are out there, I strongly suggest that you at least take the time to set an appointment with John and go ahead and see what his tool can do. If I was a real estate agent, I would take a look. Whether or not it's going to work for you is just like any other tool. It just depends on what you're.
Well, we've been doing a load. We've been working with a small group of agents, and I've been spending a lot of time with them. And because of all the improvements and added functionality that we've added to the system in the past 6 months to 8 months, and that's been really educational. And we're doing some more improvements around usability that I think I wanted to do, which was confirmed by working with these agents. So I'm still looking for a couple more beta testers if you want to come on board, folks. But in the next couple of months, it will be a very refined system. But it's been a lot of work. So I think we've got a little bit more time. We've got another 5, 6. But we've got 5 or 6 minutes actually. I liked Christy.
Christy.
Yeah, Chris. Episode 187. Christy Elgar.
Yeah.
She's a regular communist with Ingman. I think I invite her back. She said she wanted to come back on the show. Very different background because she's from a copywriting, inbound marketing, producing content produces a lot of content for agents as a copywriter, but also written a number of interesting articles for Ingman. She's a regular columnist on Ingman. But I think she had she had a really nice personality, and she had some good insights about it's something that a lot of agents are really weak on, is producing content for their websites.
True.
That, for understandable reasons. But if they really understood the medium to long-term benefit of writing effective evergreen content for their website, and that doesn't mean you've got to go berserk and write a ton of copy every week or every month. It just really means it's more about understanding what your audience really looking for and providing some reasonably quality content, isn't it, Robert? If they really understood the benefits, they'd be up for it a bit more, wouldn't they?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Listen, producing great content is always like an amazing endeavor. But even on Christy's website, the reason she didn't make it to my list is that she had never studied SEO. She has great content on her site. She's a good content writer, but for all the effort that she spends, she's getting a very minimal result. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you have to take the great content and you have to promote it correctly to Google, which is what inbound marketing or SEO is. So you can take the world's best content writer and you still can't get a result. And I think that frustrates a lot of real estate agents because they produce this amazing content. Like they go, I know I just produced the best blog post or market report on my area. I'm sure of it, but nobody ever saw it. So I spent 15 hours on it. So now I'm done because I spent all that time on this great piece of content that did nothing for me. So digital, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Content is an underleveraged, undervalued weapon, no doubt. But if you're going to throw your hat into that ring, unfortunately, you either one have to contact somebody that knows what they're doing, like a coach or somebody like me who does it for you, or B, you have to take your time and follow like a guru like Neil Patel or somebody like that and figure out how you're going to promote the content. And if you do those things, then yes, I couldn't agree with you more. And Christy Murdoch really did know what she was talking about in terms of how to write a good creative piece of content for real estate. And I recall her, and I remember her, and I liked her. But interestingly enough, I did two shows maybe in the last year, folks, where John wasn't with me. He was traveling. He was in Europe. He was taking a much needed vacation. And I did a show 188 with a guy named Zach Hammer.
Yeah, I thought you were going to choose him, actually. I thought you were.
So, and Zach was a hoot. We weren't talking about my most favorite topic ever, which was Facebook marketing bots.
It's not your favorite, is it?
No, because it's just a small mechanism. It's a small tool. The Facebook Marketing Messenger is a really undervalued marketing tool, and I don't want anybody to get me wrong. You could the response rate for Facebook messaging is like 80%. We could hire a guy right now and message all of our Facebook friends and get a huge response rate back to our Facebook page. But we have to have a whole little marketing system built up around that, a landing page, a reason. And in my experience, once again, a multifaceted, you need a service like Zach to put that all together for you and make that valuable. And it's not to say that it's not valuable. It is valuable, but to say, to hand it off as a tip to your average realtor, I think is a little overkill. However, if you wanted to learn about bots or about what you could do from the Facebook side, Zach was amazing. He managed the most active real estate marketing group of all the shows we've done. Nobody has driven more interest or more people to our tools than Zach did. I had like 80 new people hit my Facebook page within 24 to 48 hours of doing the show with Zach. His Facebook group, which he manages, was incredibly active. And I think that what he does is he gives out free consultation to either the group that signs up with his website, or maybe he just does it as a marketing tool. Either way, I mean, if he's managing it and basically consulting with a large group of realtors, he had a lot of good things to say. He had a strong marketing background that was focused on real estate. I highly recommend that you look him up and look the show up. And if you're looking for some tips, you might even be able to get some good free ones from Zach and his Facebook marketing group.
Yeah, we're going to have to have him back to the show because he's knowledgeable, but also very, very dynamic, isn't he?
Yeah, and he was fun too, which is never a bad thing. We did the show out of his motorhome, which qualifies as the most interesting place I've ever seen somebody do a podcast from, is in a motorhome.
Let's just do one more. I don't know if you're up for some bonus afterwards, but last one. Somebody not in the real estate area, and that was Brad Sugars, the founder of Action Coach. That was 197.
Okay.
You know, there's not much about mentorship. The mechanics of running a business that Brad doesn't know about. And I think he showed in our interview, he had a very keen business mind, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Well, from what I can remember of him, yes, but I think you recall that show a little bit better than I did. I'm desperately trying to pull it out of my mind right now. I don't have the show notes up in front of me. What was the show number?
It's 197 on the YouTube channels. We should match up on the website. Okay. But you know, he also owns a number of business. But his coaching business, Action Coach, is the largest coaching consultancy firm in North America and in Australia. He is the largest one at the present moment. And he built that from the ground up, and he has other multiple business. Very down to earth, very focused person, highly intelligent, but not arrogant either. Pretty down to earth individual, wasn't he?
Yeah, Brad was really fun and intense, like to use your word from earlier.
He is. But that's true. He is very intense, isn't he?
I'd like to share my thoughts, but why don't we do that in the bonus? Because we're
wrapping up. So, Robert, how can people find out more about you and your company and what you're up to?
Please, for the love of God, if you're trying to find some information about real estate marketing and you want some free advice, or you're looking at platforms, you're trying to buy a website, like all of those things is what my blog was designed for, and it is there to help you. And I've spent hundreds of hours. I haven't updated it in a little while, but I've done a lot of work on it over the years.
Well, you need to go back to Chile, don't you?
I do. Actually, I love Chile, but don't get me distracted. Anyway, you can find me at inboundrem.com. inboundrrabbitedwardmichael.com. And how can people get in touch with you, John?
I'll just go to the MailRight website, folks. Like I say, I'm looking for a couple other agents to join our to be basically, they're going to be coached by me about how to use the MailRight system. They'll get it for free for their life, as long as they keep using it and keep giving us feedback about the system. You will have to pay for the Facebook advertisement, but the actual platform and the coaching that I'm going to provide and the campaigns, we're also going to supply the campaigns and set them up for you and run them for you. That will all be part of the deal. You'll get that all free. You're just going to have to add the Facebook budget to run those campaigns. But it's a fantastic value. And we're just looking for a couple other agents that are really motivated to put their business on the next level, to help us try out all the new functionality that we've added to the MailRight system for the last 8 months. And Robert knows this, that I've been consistently working on the system, improving it. And I've probably been, but I also run another business. But I do feel that I'm getting it to a stage now that it's going to be a superb program. And I'm really happy with the progress that we've made. But everything takes a lot longer than you think, doesn't it, Robert?
It really does. Everything does. I've been working on my website platform for almost 2 years, and we're still working.
It never ends, does it? It never ends, does it?
No.
So we'll be back next week. We've got some fantastic guests for August that are going to provide fantastic value for you, listeners and viewers. Our listening and viewing figures over the past few months have been fantastic. The show's been building really well, and we'll see you next week. See you later, folks. Bye.
Bye.
So you're up for a little bit of bonus, or do you have to? Yeah, right. So yeah, I like Brad. I think he was intense, and I felt you and him got on really well. But obviously, he didn't have specifics about the real estate industry, but he had good insight about running a business in general.
Yes, some of the many things that he talked about doing is he talked about taking an idea, a single concept, like a single business, and then buying that business and making it going global with it. And the funny thing is that the same principle is applicable to real estate. What do I mean by that? I'm constantly telling people about hyperlocal real estate websites, John. And yes, it takes a while to get a single website up and ranking and all that stuff. And maybe you spend $20,000 or $30,000 or whatever the number is, taking a hyperlocal website and getting it to be dominant in the area that it's in. But here's the funny thing. While that number may sound large for most real estate markets, if it starts to generate you 20 leads a month, let's call it, and you're closing 1 out of 10 of those, it is not that expensive. Most people's GCI would easily exceed that 20 or 30,000 without even breaking a sweat. But what's the next step? Let's say all of that's true. You take Brad Sugar's concept, something that's working, and now you take the same template and apply it to all the markets that you're interested in your local area. You just rinse and repeat with the strategy that has already been successful for you. And then you keep growing from there, the same way that he talked about doing. So anyway, he was intense. We did get along very well. We have a lot of the same philosophies in terms of building businesses, buying businesses, all that, all those different things that go along with it. It's like you don't reinvent the wheel. Let somebody else do all. Like if you find a real estate agent that you in your own marketplace and they're doing well, don't try to figure out how to compete with them. Figure out how to copy them. Like everybody gets it wrong. They get it wrong over and over again. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Become like sit at their feet. Buy them coffee every day. Eat your pride. Eat your ego. And then look at what they're doing that works. Copy that. And then just like John says, because we both have shit that we do that like I'm too intense and my mood is apparent. You know, we've got little things in the podcast that we both.
Oh, but I know I've been nasty to you. Me is that I tend to rush around sometimes like a demented, and I try and get too much done. And that means that the things I'm getting done aren't done 100% to the standard that they should be, because I'm trying to get too much done in a day. So I have periods where I put tremendous pressure on myself on a list of tasks that are just ridiculously long.
Right.
You know, it's so I'm trying to stop doing that so much. Another person, you know, Andrew from Canada, Andrew Just Sell Homes. He came on. He's been on the show like 3 to 4 times, but he was on the show a few times before you became my co-host, and he came on episode 163. Andrew's really become a friend, but he's really based in Canada. He has US brokerages and agents. He runs custom Facebook campaigns for agents and brokers. He has a big he's based in Canada and has a big following in Canada. Less of a following in the US, but it's still there. But he does know his Facebook stuff, and he's a very knowledgeable, low-key person to some extent, but very trustworthy as well. He does what he says he's going to do.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Didn't you did some partnering with him for Facebook?
Yeah, I tried to get him on board with MailRight, and he was thinking about it, but he said, but in the end, he just had to be honest with me and said he just got too much on his plate. So he had to bail out, but we're still friends. But he's a busy guy, and he's got a young family as well. He's just got a lot going on in his life, but he's very trustworthy, honest individual that really knows a lot about Facebook.
Listen, I got a good read off him too. He does know a lot about Facebook. Facebook marketing is for, and everybody that's been listening and following this show will know this to be true. It's just not my personal sweet spot. It's not where I've decided to focus all my time and energy.
Yeah, I need to get back to it. You know, Andrew was providing a lot of mentorship for me, but he got a bit too busy to continue with it, and I got a bit too engrossed with my other business. But I found another mentor, and I'll be talking about Facebook a lot more in these shows, and I'm going to be refocusing it because it's going to be a key. I found another individual to help me on the Facebook marketing when it comes to MailRight, but I need to increase my education on that as well. And that might be an amazing thing to say, folks, but the truth is that these platforms like SEO, I'm sure Robert would agree with this with SEO, these platforms are changing all the time, and you only have to be out of it for 6 months, and you know it's not quite like starting from the beginning, but you do have to invest another load of time because it just moves on so quick, doesn't it, Robert?
It does, and I would like to point out to our audience that something that John just mentioned, which is he has taken the advice that we're giving out to some of you, and he's applying it to his own life and his own business, which is finding a mentor. I have a few myself, so I take that advice. mentor is always somebody that should be well above you in terms of something that they're doing or something that they're achieving. Getting them to agree to mentor you can be tough. Some of my mentors are digital mentors that do a lot of online posting, and I just basically follow their stuff religiously, like every podcast, every blog post. And if you do that with a particular person that's really prolific online, you can actually learn a lot for them, though sometimes you're learning stuff that might not be directly applicable to your business today, like listening to the Mailrite Show. Maybe we don't cover. For those of you that are curious, because I was curious, my first show on Mailrite as a co-host was number 140.
All right.
So if anybody would like to go back and see the show that
you're quite bright, because I can tell you were thinking, this guy's asking me to come on this show. What the hell? Why have I agreed to do this?
I had never been approached before, and you were the first one and I just got a kick out of it. And I'm like, and then when you asked me to co-host, I was like, I don't know that that's my jam, but I'll try it for a little while. And now here we are for 14 months later, and I'm still doing it. I love it. I actually love it. I've gotten used to doing it. And
it is a blast. You really increase the amount of people that you know. I learned a tremendous amount from the real estate. The real estate business is a strange business because the fundamentals of success, to be truthful, listeners and viewers, isn't jet science. But as I was saying to Robert before we went live, but it is complicated, because if it was really easy, almost every real estate agent would be successful, and most aren't. 20% make a really good living, and then another 10 a reasonable living. Some people say only 80 fail. It's not as bad as that, because a lot of agents aren't looking to do 20 to 80 transactions a year. That's the truth of the business of it. But on the other hand, if it was straightforward, easy, everybody would be doing a lot more business, wouldn't they? It's a strange industry to really key down on the real essential skills and processes that you need to get that success, isn't it, Robert?
It sure is. But boy, oh boy, there's a couple things that you can do in life. You can buy and sell businesses, buy and sell stocks. You can buy and sell real estate, and or manage money. And those are the real ways for wealth and independence in the United States. And real estate is definitely one of those ways. It's also one of the very few it's the only one of all the things I just mentioned where many average people with no official schooling or background or degrees or certificates that require 8 or 9 years to can get into the business. So I love real estate for that. I love how many doors of opportunity it does open. But John is right. It is its own individual endeavor that requires a lot of special learning and ongoing education.
It does. Because just to finish off, we mostly cover the online lead generation part of it, but having good presentational, you're going for them to sign the contract with you, you're going to have good presentational, good face-to-face personal sales ability when you're doing that presentation, because most people are going to have about 3 to 5. They're going to invite 3 to 5 agents maybe to do a presentation to them. I think a lot of agents really try and win it when it comes to presentations. I think you're doing yourself a real disfavor there. And the other area, the actual client handling and having, every agent says we have the best client handling methodology, but you really got to look at it and be realistic and constantly improve that. You're not going to be able to keep every client happy. Some are impossible. But on the other hand, just tarnishing all clients has been a pain in the posterior. You're not doing yourself a lot of favors there.
Right.
And fourthly, another area where a lot of agents fail is keeping in contact with people you've done business with. A lot of agents are really very terrible about that, aren't they, Robert?
They are indeed. So here's an interesting statistic for our users, and then I have to bounce.
Yeah.
But so guys, it's funny because I'm constantly going, I don't know about social and this, that, and the other thing. But guess what? We've had a couple of social specialists online with us, and one of them recently dominates our YouTube channel, the MailRight YouTube channel, not mine, but the MailRight channel. It's number show 202, and it has 500 views, and it was a social media expert. And obviously he just promoted it to his own audience, and it was a significantly higher viewership rate than some of our other videos. Though interestingly enough, number 171 with Garev is one of our top viewed shows too.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be spending more time promoting the YouTube channel because there we go. Right, we're going to wrap it up now, folks. We are back next week, me and Robert. I think we've got a guest next week, or if not, we'll find an internal subject to discuss. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I did, actually. We've had some great guests, and I think it was time to recap. Hopefully you found it interesting, and we'll see you next week, folks. Bye.
Bye.